Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Soul-u-tions Podcast. My name is Tara Simkins, and I am your host. Today's topic is something that, I know I say this every time, but I'm just going to say it again. Everybody needs to listen to this episode because I am going to tell you some things that will truly change the last 30 years of your life. Now, you may be thinking, hey, I'm still in my first 30 years. That is so far away. And I get it. But my guess is you probably have parents or grandparents who are in that final quarter of the game. And this will give you such great insight into what's going on in their life right now. You might be in your 40s and early 50s and thinking, hey, 60, that's still a long way off. And it is, and it isn't at the same time. And so this episode is going to be the thing that you want to listen to kind of know what's coming next, but to really help you appreciate where you are right now. And the reason why it's so relevant to me is because I'm 59 and next year I'll be 60. And this last 30 years kind of definitely starts in your 60s. And so I am truly cognizant of being in the final year of this particular decade of my life. And I really am always the kind of person that likes to know what's coming next. And it helps me so much because there is so much of life that happens that you are never prepared for, that just really catches you out of the blue. And the stuff I'm going to share with you today is stuff that has caught other people out of the blue before, but it doesn't have to catch you and me out of the blue because of people's willingness to share their wisdom and the miracle of the interwebs. So enjoy the introduction, and I'll meet you on the other side.
Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So, whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find Soul-u-tions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.
So, you know how much I love that introduction. And if you are new to the Soul-u-tions Podcast, let me share with you just the 60-second blurb of why I love it so much. I love it so much because it is a song that my husband wrote with a dear friend, and they pitched it to a bunch of people, and it was recorded by Darius Brucker for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and videotaped by our friends at GoPro. And it just means a lot to me because I'd written a blog post back in the day before I was podcasting, and we had gotten a lot of just, rough news in relationship to our son Brennan's cancer treatment. And it was just, everybody was just giving us such downer news. And I thought, well, can't you just talk about something a little bit hopeful for us? Could we talk about the possibilities? And that's when my husband started to write the song, and our friend said, hey, I read Tara's blog post, and I think that there's a song in there. So anyway, that the background music is that music from the song Possibilities. But then there's my favorite Einstein quote in there, that you can't solve problems on the same level of thinking in which the problems are created. You have to lift your thinking. And when I say that, I'm not just giving you a metaphor there. It's actually, you have to use a different part of your brain. You have to move from the problem part of your brain, which is very often the fight, flight, or freeze part of your brain. It's that old part of your brain that's just searching and searching and searching for danger. And you have to pause, like literally, mechanically, hand over heart, deep breath, look over your left shoulder and over your right shoulder. You think I'm teasing. I walked my 23-year-old son through this today based on a text message he received from someone he was interviewing with. I said, you're in a panic mode. You think this is a problem that you have to solve on this level, but your nervous system is just like gone into fight, flight, or freeze, and you have to put your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath. Literally look over your left shoulder and your right shoulder and say to yourself these words: nothing has gone wrong here. And what you're doing is you're telling that old part of your brain, giving it evidence, giving it physical clues that there's no one, no tigers, no lions, no bears, oh my, chasing you, and that you really are safe. And that allows you to relax your nervous system and pause that part of your brain so that you can, that's right, move to the higher, newest part of your brain where all of your beautiful solution-making skills are found. So when I am sharing today's tips with you and today's message with you, I am giving you this information so that whenever the inevitable time comes of you entering those last 30 years of your life, I don't want you to be caught off guard. I don't want you to be trying to solve a problem on the same level of thinking that you're thinking these things are a problem. Instead, I want you to remember today's episode and say, yeah, Tara prepared me for this moment. Tara prepared me for this moment. Nothing has gone wrong here. This is exactly how a human life unfolds. And if I'm lucky enough to reach the age of 60 and be thinking about, the age of 70 and entering into those last 30 years of my life, I don't want to miss the miracle of the fact that I made it that far when so many other people didn't make it that far. And so I want to share this with you because I want you to be able to be present in the miracle of your life, even when it may feel like things are not as much as a miracle as you want them to be. So I'm going to there are 10 lessons or 10 points I want to share with you on the things that, this is like a compilation of things that a 92-year-old high school guidance counselor has shared. I ran across her YouTube, and really it's the channel at Old versus Young. And they do a great job of capturing stories of people in the last 30 years of their lives and the life lessons that they wish someone had told them were coming down the pike. And so these people are sharing their wisdom with the rest of us. And because of the miracle of the time in which we live, on the interwebs, they they can share with us. And so they're a compilation of these stories. And then I think they do some of that AI magic. I don't know, I'm being a little kind of silly, that AI magic. But truly, I think what they do is they make a beautiful compilation of someone who they think through the magic of AI, they can create to look like what you might envision a 92-year-old former high school guidance counselor to look like. And they give her the shape and form of someone that feels compelling to you to look at. So I'm going to share some of the things that they shared, but I'm going to put my own twist on it and tell you why it struck me and what I think it will do to help you in whatever stage you're in right now. So this first section, what are we going to call this? Like this first podcast is going to be the first half of these lessons. And then you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait a couple of weeks for the last 5 lessons to drop, which means, yes, you want to make sure you're subscribed to the Soul-u-tions Podcast, because that way you'll receive a notification, and it is one more thing off your to-do list of, oh yeah, let me keep that tab open. I remember Tara said this is coming. I don't want to miss it in 2 weeks. Let's just go ahead and do something for ourselves to make our lives easier. And that is to, in whatever platform you're listening to this, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, hit the subscribe button right now. Okay, so the first thing that struck me is something that I know I've been in this place before in my life. And this is what I meant by, if you're in your 40s and you're listening to this, you're going to like, oh, that's so far away. But it really isn't that far away. And no matter, I remember I began thinking about this when I was in my 30s and then 40s and even early 50s, like, when I finally get to that place, I'll be able to take a breather. And I know all of my 40-year-old clients and my young friends, they all think this because you've got all these kids running around you. They're pulling on your apron strings. They need everything immediately. They need you physically. And all you can do is dream about a time when you can sleep. And when you see a friend like me, who is an empty nester with kids in college and graduated from college, and talking about what the latest show she's binge watched with her husband on a couch, like in your brain, you picture that as, I can't wait to get to the point where I can just flop down on the couch with a bottle of wine and binge watch whatever I want with my husband on television, not worrying about the kids running in on us or them hearing something inappropriate on the show, or just, worrying about whatever you have to tend to the next day. But, that's not the way life is. When you're in my position, you may have that ability to plop down on the couch, but I don't like to admit this. I am really bone tired by that time of day in a way that I wasn't tired when I was in my early 40s or even in my early 50s. And nobody wants to talk about that, but I can really feel a new sense of exhaustion come over me, a type of exhaustion that I used to push through and that I really could push through for the first about 52 to 54 years of my life. And something happens in your later 50s as you get closer to 60 where you really don't have the desire or the ability to push through that exhaustion like you used to. And that's the first sign that really a shift is occurring in you and in your body physically. So this first part is this introduction that we always think we're going to have more time than we do. We just do. We always think we're going to have more time than we do. And I felt that way when my son was facing pediatric cancer at the age of 7, 8, and 9. And we were, losing other children. Like, I really always thought he'd have a full life. And even today, I'm very aware of the miracle of him being alive and, whether or not he even makes it to 60. Golly, holy hopping hallelujah, wouldn't that be wonderful? And then I remember when my father, who was 82, was in his last days, and my mother called me to tell me that he had passed away. And I was, in the women's locker room having just worked out and grabbing a morning coffee before headed to work with my friend. And the first thing I said was, I thought I'd have more time. I thought I'd have more time. And then the tears started flowing. Like, even when you know that our end or the end of someone that you love is imminent, we always think we have more time. And so sometimes what we need to do is be reminded that when we're not in those crisis situations, that the time we have is just a gift. And what we want to do is to be present with it. And we don't want to take it for granted that we have more time to do the things that we have to do than we have. So the first thing is your body, and I just hinted to that. Your body is about to change in ways you cannot reverse. We are living in this crazy day and age of longevity, experts, pundits, best advice, all the things. And believe you me, I'm following it. I'm on hormone replacement therapy. I started a GLP-1 instead of a statin because of my elevated A1C and cholesterol levels. I wear a weighted vest when I walk for my bone density, and I lift heavy weights for my muscles because I know at 59, crossing into the age of 60, that I have got to enter these last 30 years with as much of a head start as I can before things, start to weaken in all these areas. It is just a fact. So we're not always going to be in a position that we can reverse the health situations that we have to face. And that doesn't mean we don't try. And that doesn't mean we don't work for medical advances, like what we do at the Press On Fund, our Pediatric Cancer Research Fund. Like, we're always pushing, right, that next edge of research and the next edge of going back to this song, what are the possibilities? But we hold that in one hand, and we hold it with the reality of there is also always a point where we won't be able to reverse things in our body. And this is what my mom always shares with me. She worked with, and this was 35 years ago, she worked with a gerontologist and a specialist. And he said, for people in the last 30 years, there comes a point where their today is the best day of their life, and that tomorrow is going to be harder than their today is. And that, if you're like, when you hit that reality, you can think of that as a problem, or you can lift your thinking to a higher level and realize, like, oh, there's some radical acceptance here for me to truly grapple with, so I can honor my body, so that I can give my body what it needs, and so that I won't miss out on today being the best day of my life, and knowing that tomorrow might be a little bit harder. So that's a huge mental shift for us to make, especially as people who are alive today. So remember this. If, I mean, truly, ever since I listened to this, I'm like, oh, I don't want to lift today, or I don't want to get those steps in. And I just have this really sage advice from someone at 92 telling me, hey, do it anyway. It really is much more important than you're thinking right now. It really is. It really is going to matter 30 years from now. So for all of us, remember, this is the time to treat your body better. And if you've never done that before, I really hope you hear that from my lips to your ears, and that this opens something in you, like motivates you in a new way, creates a real sense of urgency for you, for your body, and gratitude and appreciation, because only you can treat your body better. Nobody else can do that job. Okay, number 2, you need more friends than you think. You need more friends than you think you're going to need. My mother, as a widow of 2 years, I watch her navigate her social calendar in such an intentional way. She reaches out to all of her grandchildren. She reaches out to all of her children. She reaches out to all of her nieces, nephews, my father's first cousins and second cousins. She has people that she works with. She has my friends, all of my siblings' friends. She has all of her grandchildren's roommates. Like, it's crazy, all of the people that she reaches out to on a regular basis. And then she has her friendship circle, and she will share how this is the hardest time in her life because she's lost my father, and all of her friends are losing mostly their husbands. She goes to funerals a lot. It is a time in life that is filled with loss. And I also can see other people that are her age, in their 80s and even into their 90s, and I can compare her level of activity with other people who haven't collected or cast a wide net of friendship. And they're getting more and more isolated and more alone in their life. And even sharing recently with me of, gosh, I don't get out and do anything anymore. I really have truly become a bit of a hermit. What we know from all of the research, and this is one of my favorite studies that I share on here a lot and with my clients a lot, which is the Harvard longitudinal study on longevity. Say that 3 times really fast. The Harvard longitudinal study on longevity. And it has followed, started in the 30s, following people in college throughout their entire life, and now has followed next generations and next generations. And what they said is the strongest, determinative factor in someone's health in their 80s is the quality of the relationships in their 50s and 60s. More so than exercise, more so than lifting heavy, more so than your genes, more so than any other habit, is the habit of always creating new friends. And if you're an empty nester, you know what I'm talking about, because all of a sudden your kids go away and you are devastatedly surprised by how you now no longer have all the natural meetup points in your schedule with your friends, or you find out that what you really had in common with so many of your friends were that they had kids who were the same age as your kids and in the same activities and attending the same school as your kids. And if you're lucky enough that your kids go to a college with a lot of their high school friends and a lot of your hometown people, you have an ability to continue that. But if you don't, you will find yourself like really in a pickle. And I know this happened to me, and it really floored me. And because I have a human brain, and because I was not thinking of this problem on the level of a solution, I felt that this was due to a defect in myself. It was something that I had neglected to prepare myself for, or that perhaps I just wasn't wanted by the friends that I had spent more time with before, because they were choosing to spend time with the kids that they still had at home's parents. And it was just schedules. It was nothing more than what we like to call proximity. Nothing more than that. And yet I felt like I had failed, and I felt such a deep sense of shame and even fell into a bit of a depression over this. And through this process, I realized I have to find more friends. I have to find more activities. And the beautiful thing for me was that I also had a son, Brennan, who was kind of going through this in college because his life had been so unique, and he didn't have a huge social group because he really had to be isolated from the first grade on because of health reasons. And then, as I said, I saw my mother on this end, and I was like, this is nothing to be ashamed of. This is not a deep, dark place of failure for me. And instead, what it is this is a skill set that I just was lucky enough I didn't have to work too hard at for all the years of having 3 kids in 4 years and being so busy with working, being in that place that if you are in your 40 and you're just exhausted and thinking that, oh yeah, when I get those kids go off to school and I can get on the couch, and finally have some time to myself, what you often end up finding is you have more time than you know what to do with. And you don't have the skill set of filling that much time in your schedule. So what you are going to be inclined to do is to fall into some type of despair, which is what I found myself falling into. But then thankfully, I had the skill set of observation, the skill sets of reflection, the skill set of doing deep research, of finding answers to my problems. And so then I kind of figured it out. And now I'm just blessed to be able to help other women who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, like as they navigate the empty nest. That's what I do a lot of in my private practice and in the Soul-u-tions labs, of just like helping prepare you for what's coming next. Hence, now that I find myself on this new threshold of 60, I'm now actively looking for what is next and how can I prepare for it, which is the reason why we're doing this podcast today. So instead of doing 5, that was a little bit of a deeper dive. So I'm just going to cut off with those 2 points today. And then remember to subscribe if you didn't take the time to earlier, because there are 10 of these. They are equally as rich and deep and meaningful and preparatory for you in your life. Each of these next 8 are as these first 2 were. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you subscribed. And then I really hope you'll share it with a friend because, we need a lot more friends than we think we need. And one of the easiest things to do is just to send someone a podcast that says, hey, I'm thinking of you, or this is something maybe we could talk about over lunch. And, it could be the kind of friend that you say, listen, I really like her stuff. And I kind of would like to join that thing she talks about all the time, the Soul-u-tions Labs, but I'm afraid to do it alone. Would you be interested in doing it with me? And then you'd be opened up to a lot more friends in there because it would give you some place to go on Tuesdays and Fridays and recordings to listen to. And it will so enrich and expand your lives. And I know that because I've been teaching in the Soul-u-tions Labs for 7 years and teaching some of the women who are in there in classes for 12 years now. And that's what every single one of them tells me. So share it with a friend, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next podcast where we'll share the next 2 things that you need to know before you enter that final 30 years. Until next time, bye.
'Cause I ain't done living the life I'm meant to lead. And I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities. The left and the right and some faith in the fight.